After a long layoff, we're back. It's time to cover Korea with Let's Cover Korea. dGon here alongside Wolf. And Wolf, it's been a while. Even though you and I have seen each other, it's still been a while since we've sat down in this medium. And we had fears, reservations, nerves about going to international events after losing the last one. Not even coming in second. We did run around saying third best region, blah, blah, blah. And now look at us. Look at us.
We won both of the tournaments. And we, I mean our region, because dGon and I did not compete in either event. But our region, our region did it. So just as everyone always does, when G2 won, everyone said Europe is the best. We get to say, oh yes, I saw that the last of the 5 dots on Leaguepedia had the HLE logo on the side there. We immediately became the best region. Next to the 5, it says HLE. And on the number 1 with the prize pool there and the gold trophy, it says HLE. And then went to EWC, and it didn't say T1, it didn't say HLE, it didn't say Gen.G, but it said DPlus. It said DK right there. So again, just confirming we're the best region, because that's what happens. I don't think we're the best region, dGon, but we did win both tournaments. Teams from our region did win both tournaments, which is wild to say that T1 or Gen.G won. Neither, obviously, didn't even have T1 and MSI, but also that like Dplus won EWC is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we didn't have Gen.G at MSI.
We didn't have Gen.G at MSI. There we go. But when I look at EWC, here's a list of teams in order. It goes Dplus, then Karmine Corp, number 2 region in the world yet again, and then Gen.G, T1, Hanwha. It's literally the 4 Korean teams sandwiching KC. Hanwha, of course, in the same 5th through 8th with JDG, AGL, and Billy Gaming. But for whatever reason, they listed Hanwha first out of those. But yes, I, as someone who came from NA, loves LCS, wished for LCS to find a way to find the success that maybe the LEC has enjoyed or the LPL has enjoyed. It did feel very like naked when it was like, oh, we're going to the event. We're not 100% sure if we're the best team anymore. I've gotten used to the premium style League of Legends. I've gotten used to knowing what my teams were going to do before they did it and then doing it. Instead, we got treated to the T1 circus of like, I think they're going to win, but I'm not sure because they're just fighting everything and it working out. But that was not the case at both these events, at both MSI and EWC. Maybe for the play-ins, T1 was bringing the circus to dGon. But after that, it felt like traditional, like strong movement, strong, punishing bad plays, punishing poor individual mistakes became the norm yet again. And it led us to what we had there at MSI. But we entered our last episode. We left our last episode, entered this episode, thinking that the LCK was not the strongest region. With these results, Wolf, you said you still feel like it's not. Why?
Let's talk about MSI. Let's talk about MSI first, because MSI, I think, was the one we were most... Well, I was specifically me. I mean, you agreed with me. You had your concerns, but MSI was the one I was most concerned about because we had to see that to then make judgments about EWC. We weren't really talking about EWC necessarily when we were making that episode. It's been, like a month since that episode was released. Yeah. It was right after we did our road to MSI, all of that. So if you look at how MSI panned out, like if I remember correctly, my main concerns were like we have some weird drafting in our region that doesn't necessarily stack up, I think, to some of the more creative drafts we're seeing overseas. We also have really weird team fighting, bad calls on Baron, for example, a lot of the time, which has been a theme that's been brought up a lot. I know Azael's been very outspoken about this. about how he feels like teams are doing Baron incorrectly and are still like living in the past about how old Baron was compared to how it is now. And then other issues around like T1's overconfidence, for example, forcing a lot of fights that, doing the thing where he's matadoring, right? He's like super far out. They're chasing him, but then the rest of the team scoops through. I feel like that's what the fans have not identified what it is, but that's like the circus of T1. Fans haven't really figured like, oh, they did a thing and like the fight was silly and they almost lost the game. That's the circus. The circus usually is Faker's really pushed up, but he's doing that on purpose and they're trying to set a trap and then collapse. And this is what T1 has been doing for like the last 5 years so often, right? And oftentimes that's the circus. The new circus more recently, if you look at like the EWC tournament where they lost to Casey, we'll get into that later. There's a little bit more dragon fighting where we don't have any vision, but we're just going to out team fight them. That's a new kind of circus. But all of these things to say, it wasn't clean League of Legends. Like it was not the dominant T1 or Hanwha where you look at it and go, they get a 2,000 gold lead early. Their macro is pristine. They never mess up a team fight. The other team has no chance. It's a boring game of League of Legends. It's done. It's over. It's clean. The draft's perfect. What are you going to do? I did not feel like we were going to have that going in. Then I watched the HLE Lions series, and I'm like, we're going to lose this series. We're going to lose to North America. And we almost did. Kind of got lucky, by the way. A bit of a throw in the end, ultimately. One of the comeback wins for Hanwha, if it didn't happen, we wouldn't even gone to Game 5 in the first place. And then Hanwha barely beats BLG. Barely. And I was tweeting, like, before this has been a sobering tournament for LCK fans, right? Because G2 knocks out T1, right? T1, otherwise losing to BLG in a close series, to be fair. Like, BLG and T1 was a very good series, very close series. T1 did play well there, but there were some draft issues. I was like, oh, this is a sobering tournament for LCK fans. I had everybody in my mentions. Oh, Wolf doesn't even support his own region. Wolf hates Hanwha. He just doesn't know. He doesn't know like how much everyone loves his region. I'm worried about my region. That's the most supporting thing ever. If you want to go, la 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 la, my region is perfect. I think you're not actually. You don't even like your region. You're just like, my region won, so I'm better than you. Yeah, that's who you are. I'm worried about our region. I thought our region's in trouble, and Hanwha pulled it off in the end. But it was so close, and it was so close to a completely different result that. I don't know how people came at me after Hanwha won. Like, I guess Wolf's a dumbass. He didn't know anything. He just doesn't know ball because he said LCK was struggling. Look at the results. Look at where we are. Look at what happened. We barely won. And by we, I mean HLE barely won. It wasn't like we had 3 out of the 4 top 4. We didn't. If Lion beat HLE, 4th best region, by the way. 4th best region in the world, right? Was not good. Was not good MSI for LCK. We did win. And yes, was it a good MSI for the other regions? Like, was it as good MSI for China, for LPL? Not really. TES lost to G2, right? Like, yeah. BLG made it to the finals, but it was only one Chinese team there. And, NA and Europe all had equal representation, basically, in that top 4, if you look at it that way. So you could be like, but Wolf, like, I mean, LCK is the same as every other major region. I mean, technically, we kind of had equal representation there. Fair. But we hold the LCK to a higher standard, right? This was a tournament where I think people came into the tournament, like, LCK wins easy. And I just don't think that was the case at all.
Yeah. I think, to me, the drafting issues became more and more clear and obvious that T1 have gotten to the point of, throughout these last several years of, are they doing this because this is the right thing, or this is ingenuity, or are they doing this because they're T1? And I feel like this time, I think it's actually the same, but this time, because they lost, we're falling into that draft was really obvious. We felt like it was going to be a pretty clear spot here for a lot of these drafts. Why are we just not responding to some of the picks that were already being picked up? And so the narrative then became, they're terrible drafting. They don't know what they're doing. It was really obvious. Like, I have folks that come and tell me that I'm like, I don't know if you're educated enough on the game to be able to talk like that. And you're just kind of parroting the Reddit hive mind thing, which, if you took it in isolation, is correct. It's like, yes, they are correct, but there's a reason why they would do that. And when it doesn't work, it just looks like they got pie in their face. And it goes back to what you said earlier. Not only T1, but the LCK as a whole, we hold to a higher standard that they have set over the last several years. It's not like, hey, we're being mean and they won, but that's not good enough. I think I'm a little lighter on the stance than Wolf. I'm very relieved. And I think ultimately winning in a game 5, going all the whole distance is the goal. But also, they did it from the lower bracket. But also, they almost lost to Lion and would have gone out on 4th. And I think I tried to take it from a position of, man, look at the parity of the game that all regions can win at any moment, any given Sunday, as we say in American football. And this, in my head, is what the Riot competitive team wanted way back in the day, Wolf, when we used to do best of ones. They wanted, maybe TSM can beat Samsung White or whoever was there at the time, because it's a best of one. We're not at the point where, oh wow, the meta has evolved and teams are developing personalities and kind of like ways of thinking about the game and their risk tolerance in terms of draft to imbalance some of these games. And no, because that was the whole issue. The issue was, if you played standard, you tried to play straight up with T1 or straight up with Gen.G, you were going to get bopped because you didn't play enough competitive games that mattered, because not all 5 players spoke the same language, because because your region server has 60 ping compared to Korea's like 3. Like, there were all those reasons we know. And now they've gone to the thing that has the biggest alteration on how a game goes in terms of draft, and are willing to take risks there, as evident there at MSI into EWC, where all of a sudden we're drafting Victor Bot. You're picking 2 mages in your first 2 or first 3 or whatever. But that to me is more of the story I take away from MSI and this year as a whole than just LCK performance. It's other regions are willing to take the risk to find areas other than in-game gameplay to try and even the playing field. And it's working.
Agree. Yeah, and we always, I think everyone, almost every analyst universally agreed that Fearless was kind of a nerf to the LCK, because the LCK plays a rigid play style that is about iteration, and not
Optimization. Yes.
optimization. Like, we know this is the way to play this meta. We're going to play only this most optimal way and make sure that we're the best at it. And sometimes, an LCK team would figure it out first, or people assumed the LCK figured it out first and would copy it, and so it became known that it was the best way, right? Like, for example, the double marksman that Karya and Gumayushi were able to pioneer, which became obviously standard around the world. It was propping up like here and there, but obviously they were the ones who were going to be most famed for it, because they were the ones who had the most success with it, the LCK team, blah, blah, blah. They had an incredible win streak during that meta as well. But it feels like right now, the meta isn't necessarily dictated by the LCK. It's just dictated by what's strong around the world, and everyone is playing the same thing. But if you're not as adaptable as our LCK teams often are not, because when metas change, we struggle, which is why a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of LCK teams like Gen.G struggle at Worlds, because they were playing one style for most of the year, optimized it, and then it's like, oh, it's by the way, you're not allowed to win that way anymore, and then they struggle to figure it out on the fly. Whereas a lot of Western teams, for example, have leaned into the creativity, like you said, leaned into, I'm not going to play the same game as the Korean teams because that's not what I'm best at. I'm going to do a different thing, like FlyQuest's run, obviously at Worlds a few years ago. That kind of thing. Nunu comes out and Korea's like, I've never even played against that champion in solo queue in 5 years, because people only do optimization at the top level. So I think that this is an issue that T1 is running into more than anyone else, but Hanwha Life Esports runs into a little bit as well, where they seem to know that the picks that they have work together pretty well. They seem to know the counter picks, right? Obviously, I'm not trying to say that like Korean teams don't know these obvious things. They know what to pick into Gnar in the top lane. They know what a dive comp is. But I think sometimes don't necessarily know how to like pull out a trap card. You see it every now and then. Like every now and then you'll see a really cool pick from KIA and you're like, oh. Or like a fake from T1 where they flex a pick. It happens with Gen.G sometimes. It used to happen with Dplus all the time. But Western teams are doing this a lot. And Western teams are making real compositions. Sometimes our Korean teams are getting the top tier S tier picks early in the draft and then can't figure out how to make a comp with it. Or they end up like, losing bottom lane because they drafted that late because they wanted to get the better blind pick for so and so. Whether it's Faker or they wanted to get the counter pick for Doran but left the bot lane out to dry because they didn't want Doran to get banned out in the second phase. That kind of stuff. But it's also on the Rift where it's not looking as clean. Again, we won, and I honestly think after I saw Hanwha won because I was on a plane when it happened and I had to land and go rewatch everything. Which is very funny because I was on a plane and then my mentions exploded when I got internet and everyone was like, "Ah, you were wrong," and I was like, "Oh, I guess HLE won," and I had to go watch the VODs. And I saw it was 5 games, and I thought about their run. Obviously, they had a pretty strong run through the upper bracket, but like their opponents, G2 wasn't playing well. They had their coach replaced, all that stuff, in the aftermath. Team Secret Whale is not that great, but lost to BLG and then almost lost to Lion. I think that run back and the fact that they had to play 5 games against BLG, arguably one of the hardest MSI runs ever. Had Lion won, easily like one of the hardest runs of all time of any team. That they had to beat HLE and G2 and BLG to win if they had won. Obviously, they didn't win. I think they could have if they had won that last game against Hanwha. I think they could have won the whole tournament. We'll never know. But my bottom line for MSI is, I think it's a learning experience. I think the double elimination bracket, pretty good that we had that, right? Otherwise, it would have just been, BLG won the tournament. And that might be what happens at Worlds. Who knows? Depending on how it all shakes out, if we don't make some big improvements. I do think the LPL has, like, how do I put this? BLG feels like they really fell apart after the MSI loss. They did not look as strong at EWC.
Yep.
And just in general, I don't know how to explain this because I'm not that familiar with the culture of the players and their personalities. But there's something about like Bin took a break right afterwards as well, right? Like he's on a little hiatus. Like it's moments like that I don't know for sure. Like the culture, so I don't want to speak as if I am an LPL pilled person because I just really am not. It seems like they're hurt by the loss in the same way that like Korea as a nation is often like swim home if you lose this tournament kind of thing. I'm not saying that the Chinese fans are necessarily saying that to Bin, but I think he feels responsible, for what happened in some ways. And I hope that doesn't get into his head too much because I do want the LPL to be a big challenging region. But if it's not, and if they can't walk it back, we could be in a situation where we have the LCK and LCS and LEC kind of all vying for a potential spot. It's not necessarily going to be a Korea versus Korea, China versus China, or Korea versus China finals at Worlds if the development at LCS and LEC continues. That was a really cool takeaway for me for both MSI and we'll get into a little bit later, EWC, how competitive the West is kind of looking right now because Korea also looking a little bit dipping at the same time.
Yes. Wenbo currently in now for BLG with rumors that Hoya would come in and replace Bin. I think, all right, we'll get into EWC right after this. Right after we remind you about our new benefit here at Last Free Nation. It's called LFN Premium. Now, LFN Premium is live now at lastfreenation.com. Every week, we're taking one subscriber's topic and putting it in the show with your name on it, which I think is pretty awesome for our show specifically, given the fact that I feel like a lot of people got takes after the fact here, Wolf, and then we got to go digging for them, and then, we use it. But now you can tell us before the fact, and we'll hit on it with your name. Subscribers get every one of the 16 shows here on Last Free Nation ad-free with access to the private Discord, and every week we'll pull up one subscriber topic onto the show, credit you by name, Q&As as well. Every so often, Wolf and I will sit there, answer some of your questions about the show, about LCK, about life, now about married life, maybe. The people that care about the fact that we're married, probably the same folks that care about LFN Premium. So sign up now at lastfreenation.com and pick this show so we can get paid directly. Again, Wolf and I very much appreciate it. We get together every week, even if it's like, crying baby in the background. Getting married. I got in-laws visiting. I got family visiting. No, I love owning the show and being a part of this for the community that watches. Every single viewer matters to me. So thank you so much for supporting us with your views. Now there's a way to support even more so that we can continue doing this and give back even closer to you all.
Thank you guys. Always.
So thank you very much. Make sure to head on over to lastfreenation.com and sign up for LFN Premium. Pick our show so that we get the credit for it. And if case you're not feeling it for a little while, there's a 7-day money-back guarantee. But try it either way. lastfreenation.com. Thank you to all of you who have set sail with us as we continue on this journey in esports. All right, let's turn our focus to EWC. Wolf, I will continue with BLG here, and then we can put it back into the LCK lens. But I think it's relevant either way. They and so many of the teams that went to MSI, Wolf, looked tired. I ran into, we were in the back shooting content, when to fill during the weeks, and we saw the BLG guys. I saw Viper there. I wanted to tell Viper, hey, you're my favorite. You're my wife's favorite. Come back. I miss you. Come back. But
I don't think he's doing Hanwha a third time. I don't think he's doing it. I think he's had enough
in that mode that you always get stressed out about, that I always plow through, which is the I don't think it's gonna. I think it's be bothering him if I went to go talk to him right now.
I mean, look, Viper's a very friendly guy. He also speaks obviously Chinese, but people don't know that he speaks English perfectly as well. He usually doesn't like to do it in content. I think even though he does speak English very well, maybe he's not as confident to do it. The same way that like I can speak Korean, but I would prefer to do content English because it's my like native language, my mother tongue, whatever you want to call it. So I can do shows better and I can speak more eloquently, way more eloquently. My Korean is not that perfect. So anyway, Viper probably would talk to you. He probably would, I think be okay with it if you did come over to him and say like, I appreciate you or whatever. But I don't know. For me, even though I've done content with Viper, I know him very well. I just never want to talk to pro gamers when they're in an event. If they're done with the event and they're after a win, I'll talk to anybody. You know what I mean? But after a loss, I'm trying to stay away. And even when they're doing content and stuff, getting ready, a lot of players hate content. Okay, this is a tangent. I'm gonna go off for a little bit, but like players need to be okay doing content because it's how we get paid. It's how everybody gets paid. It's like you guys are super famous, so you got to put your face out there. But sometimes they hate doing the silly content and the other sort of like generic interview content that they're forced to do because it just eats into their practice time and their rest time. Like they just traveled, they're tired, they want to go practice, they want to do scrims, they want to talk about the game with their colleagues, they want to order Uber Eats in the hotel room and chill out because they've been on a plane for a million hours, and it's like, no, instantly go do content. So whenever I see a player in that situation, outside of like saying 안녕하세요 and like bowing to them, I'm usually like, maybe another time. But I totally get you. I get your vibe of like you wanted to talk to him, and it's cool to see all these players around at EWC because there's so much going on.
Yeah, but I think it was just a nice setting of like what was to come, which were a lot of the MSI teams did poorly. Like G2, they didn't do so good. Lion, they went out without a win. They went out to MIBR Los. Like, I'm glad that MIBR Los had themselves a victory, but when I think Brazilian League of Legends, I think Furia first, then Red Canids, then maybe Loud, then maybe Los. Like it's and this is the team that was like carrying the flag for everyone at MSI saying, NA, third best region, and now it's like, what? They're worse than the other Americas team in CV LOL. Like, it was a great moment, but I feel like that had a major factor in it. Also, the fact that it's it, it's just part of this new challenge that I think teams are going to have to pick up after MSI. It's another opportunity for you to earn more money, win more cash, find more prestige, because as we're going to talk about here, it does a lot for Dplus Kia, their team, their players, their staff, but also on the lower end, like, you just get burnt out. You flew out there, you get your ass beat, and then you go home and you're like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, I think. I mean, people forget too that in these types of circuits, it happened a lot in StarCraft. It's a thing that happens in the fighting game scene and like Smash Bros and Street Fighter, where you're in an active. I don't want to call it a circuit, because like a circuit implies like a League of Legends ecosystem where you're playing in domestic league and then you go to international. It's just a tournament based esport where you just travel to tournaments. You don't have to go to every tournament. You got to choose which tournaments you go to if you're a Smash player or a StarCraft player. These guys are individual players, not playing on a team. But you could have a bad performance on an event and then go to the next one, to go to the next one, and go to the next one, right? So, like, I think a lot of people look at EWC and they're like, well, it's not real and the teams didn't care. And I'm like, I could tell you, as someone who talks to many of the team owners and people involved at EWC, they often care the most about EWC, at least ownership wise. Obviously, the players are tired. It doesn't hold yet, I think, the prestige that MSI has, because it just hasn't been around as long, right? Who knows? Maybe one day things will change. We might even have more tournaments, might get IEMs back. I mean, Greeley was kind of implying that that kind of thing might still be on the table in the future. I think it's cool that there's more tournaments that exist. And so if Lion doesn't do well here, BLG kind of big rough one, right? I mean, they lost to Dplus ultimately. So results-wise, it was bad, but Dplus won the whole thing. So in retrospect, probably felt really bad at the moment they lost to Dplus, but after Dplus won, probably felt a little bit less bad. I think it's okay that G2 also didn't have the best tournament. Like, I think that's okay, because it just happens if you're in an ecosystem where you're flying from event to event, and on the patch is changing, the meta is changing, and your read wasn't as good, or you just it was best of threes, right? Like, a lot of this was best of threes, not best of fives. You didn't even have the depth there. Only the finals was best of fives, and obviously group stage was BO1.
Best of ones,
so
yeah.
I mean, it's just a very different tournament, and so different types of teams will find that easier or harder. I'm not trying to say that the format is why D+ won, and we'll get to D+ in a minute, but I do think that a lot of people trivialize this tournament when their team doesn't do well. They're like, well, my team didn't care, and doesn't even matter, and it's not real because it's not named MSI or Worlds. And that's like what people say about MSI when their favorite team does well. It's not named Worlds, so I don't care. Or when T1 doesn't win LCK, well, it's not named Worlds, so I don't really care. But I think EWC matters a lot for these teams. I think to say that that G2 didn't care, actually, are you even a G2 fan if you believe that? I think they cared a lot. The org obviously is invested in the circuit points that's at EWC as well, which is a ton of money for these organizations, the championship points, I should say. It's very important. So I guarantee you these teams cared way more than you think. They might just be tired and had less prep, and the meta was shifting to an insane degree while this was happening. So, it was a bonkers tournament. It's super fun. This tournament made me wish we had IEMs back, and you could choose to go if you want or get invited. Like, we have Kespa Cup. Right now, Kespa Cup's going on, which it's in its very early stages. We're about to get into knockouts today. If you have Disney Plus, come check it out. But or if you don't, get Disney Plus and come check it out. But we have Kespa Cup at the end of the year normally. This year is a little bit different. And we have a few other here and there tournaments. We had the You Don't Go to Worlds tournament, I always forget the name of, where they sent the LCK teams to
ASI.
ASI, yes. That's very fun. I want more stuff like that. And EWC is cool because we have a lot of teams there. It's over a longer period. It's not just a weekend tournament like IEMs used to be. It's an extended tournament. There's storylines that build up. And it's cool that a completely different winner than who just won like right before the event started actually came through. And
Yeah.
like there's fatigue there, but it means Dplus gets an extra advantage. Like they didn't go to MSI, but now they have their chance here. I find that stuff really cool. And if
Yes.
people are just like, the schedule is too hard. Well, I guess if you just keep winning, it's just really hard. Yes, I know. Like, oh, I kept winning. I was one of the best teams in my region. I had to travel and play like in front of a huge crowd and have big sponsors and make a lot of money. Forget it, man. Teams shouldn't go to EWC. It's too tough. No, that's like every major sport. Think about baseball players. Think about how much those players travel and keep telling me about it. Yeah. Yeah.
Or like Barcelona, Real Madrid, those best teams that they win their Spanish league, and then they have the European league, and then they have the FIFA Club World Cup if you win the UEFA Champions League on top of their national team duty. Like, you want the best players. And yes, fatigue is a thing, but also subbing players out during the middle of a regular season isn't something that a lot of teams have done or experimented because of fatigue here, Wolf, because in NA, you played twice a week. That's it. In EU, they're starting to change it up a little bit more with like, okay, it's a road show, so they invited these 4 or 5 teams, so they're going to play 3 times this one weekend. But guess what? That means they're not going to play for like 2 weeks. This is a Eastern League of Legends issue, and there hasn't been solutions yet. But we've seen through other sports, you continue to work through it and find other ways to rest and recover. Kind of like what T1 did earlier this season. After LCK Cup, they took their break.
Yeah.
They took a break.
Kespa Cup, for example, a lot of our LCK teams
Correct.
are fielding their non-main rosters, fielding challengers rosters, or as T1 did yesterday, fielding their main roster for the first time for the tougher games, and then against DNS, fielding their challengers roster. Who demolished DNS, by the way. DNS got wrecked by T1's challengers team. T1's challengers team is really good right now, if you haven't been following, but still, it was sad for DNS, for Duckers.
Was that the Scion bot? Wasn't it something weird bot?
Not in this game today, or yesterday rather. It was just a pretty standard draft. Jace, Hitte's Jace, just he was running. It was the first loss of Lock of the tournament. The closer had a rough time and they couldn't play the game. Jace took over. Anyway, it is possible to, if we have any more of these tournaments, for T1 to be like, I'm sending my challengers team to compete in this tournament because that's fun. Like, obviously you want to have your biggest star players to showcase your sponsors, right? The sponsors probably want that, but there are ways for this ecosystem to have more leagues, is what I'm getting at, even if they're smaller. Because Kespa Cup, it's a great tournament. I've been commentating it since I think the first one I did was in 2014 for StarCraft. It's been around for a long time, has a lot of prestige to it, but it is also a smaller tournament than an IEM or an EWC. Like, I think we could be frank about that. It's a small domestic league. So, I mean, teams are already willing to make that happen. So I think there's, in the future, especially if League continues down this path, there will be some roster changes and some substitutions and stuff like that for these types of events, for sure.
Yeah. The tournament itself. Right, I said it at the top. It was Dplus who won. They beat KC, Gen.G T1 Hanwha, and then JDG, AGAL, and Billy Gaming with as the other squads there. Sentinels beat Team Secret, so they weren't the worst team from NA, which was great. GAM and T1, was it 40-27 in terms of kills in their second game there, Wolf? What memories will jump out at you from EWC?
There was a prevailing vibe that I kept trying to push into the room, and I don't want to say I called it because I feel like this isn't true, but I kept telling everybody I think Dplus is going to win this tournament basically from like day 2. It was after their like win against Furia, where they drafted something really stupid but just played it really well, and I thought it was stupid, but I just didn't understand the mage bottom lane meta yet. But Dplus just looked so good on it, and I was like, I don't know, guys, Dplus gonna win this tournament. I just kept saying it, and then when they beat BLG, I was like, guys, Dplus is gonna win this tournament. And everyone's like, yeah, but they have to beat Gen.G, so it's not gonna
Yeah,
happen.
I didn't
Like,
believe you. I remember you saying
no,
it
I
then.
don't know.
I don't remember you saying it
I think
earlier.
they're
I remember you saying it
I
then. I feel like Gen.G. No way, dude. Shut up.
I think they're gonna win this tournament, and then they did end up winning the tournament. They had some magic around them. That's one of the big things I'll remember. I think the two other big moments, like really specific moments, were obviously T1's throw into Casey was a giga throw, and just I don't know, one of T1's worst games in terms of important scale, because T1 had some silly games throughout this year. But like
Yep.
in a best of three where you can just then reverse sweep it in an LCK domestic game and you have a silly game, doesn't matter. But losing this one, the important one, was probably one of their worst games at the highest stakes of the year. And also the last team fight of, I think it was game one between Gen.G and Dplus, where Smash had the true shot barrage.
Shot barrage, dude. It was I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
I watched it back. Um, when he was charging the true shot barrage, when I was casting that with Atlas and Ox, I like I screamed like the true shot barrage like as it was coming out. Like I just screamed. I screamed it so loud that I was like concerned that Max was gonna be mad that I like yelled over his play by play, because like it was in that moment I think all three of us realized, like before the kills came through, I think all three of us had that moment. You know, it's like in a movie where like the time stops and everything goes in slow motion for a second. I think all three of us casting like realized like they're gonna die. Like he timed it perfectly. And
Yeah.
I just screamed it. And if you watch the VOD, you can't hear me because I think I just went over the mic gate. It just like was like, nope, his voice is not allowed to be that loud. This is a TV show. But I don't, that moment was so that specific moment I think was my favorite moment of the tournament. I think that was the real finals. Like Gen.G Dplus should have been the finals. Like if that was the finals, it would have been the best finals possible. Obviously KC collapsed under Dplus. And had it been T1 Dplus, I think T1 smashed them also, to be honest. I don't think T1 would have been able to take them out at that moment in time. And unfortunately, in Kespa Cup, Dplus decided to take a break. They actually went 0-4. It might even be 0-5, actually. I have to open the standings up again in Kespa Cup with their Challengers roster. The Challengers roster actually looked pretty okay, by the way, but their jungler... Anyway, it's another topic for another time. But Solid is replacing Charvel because Charvel went to DNS. And so Solid plays his first like professional games at Kespa Cup, and he needs some time, let's say. Anyway, I'm curious to see how Dplus is going to do in the LCK now. But I guess we could talk about, those are some of the moments. Like I don't know if you want to share yours, or if you want to transition to talking about these guys and their situation with finances and what this means. I'll leave that up to you if you want, which branching path you want to take.
Yeah. Let me just hit a couple. Just a big one that I think it remains to be seen. And when we look back at season 16, the 2026 patch year, I will go back to EWC. Hopefully it's in like another 5 years. League lasts at least another 5. and remember what the hell happened between MSI and EWC, which is the same patch that we're all just picking whatever the hell we want down on the bottom side of the map. Camille being priority at support, and then all the mages. Remember, Kalis pulls out Victor against T1, and that's one of the major reasons why they won. The Vel'Koz being utilized by Viper, which was like awesome. Obviously, they did that over at MSI, but I think it really opened the eyes to everyone that we can pick anything down there on the bottom side of the map. Let's go ahead and start picking up these mages early on and force the mid lane champ pool, and also ask of the bot lane, normally 80 carry playing player, can they play these mages? And it was just kind of chaotic. It was really, really chaotic and put a heavy strain on both bots and supports to figure out how to optimize this brand new option and opportunity. And I personally, I hate it. As an 80 carry player, I love seeing the auto attacking mechanics, the correct spacing that way, and it's a completely different style of spacing when there's a Syndra in your bot lane, and if I get stunned, the Pyke's gonna hook me, and all of a sudden I'm dead. But from a strategic standpoint, I love it. This is going back to what we were talking about earlier, the West being willing to try these things and push find a way to get edges in the draft, this is a fantastic way to do that, and I think it did catch out some of our teams, because you could see one or two mages that our bot laners were comfortable with in the LCK, but once we went to best of 3 and they were asked to play, not Ziggs, then what? It became a little bit more apparent that this was a actual advantage that teams could pick up on. And now you're asking these bot laners to practice a wide range of champions, like an absolute wide range of champions that do different things. And it's going to be fun to watch here for the rest of 2026. Maybe it gets nerfed to the ground and we won't remember this, but if not, EWC was the moment where they learned a little bit from MSI and they blasted it wide open. Did the not just the West, but the players in general, teams in general. And then the other one here, Wolf, was it's just ShowMaker, right? It's ShowMaker from EWC. Both his gameplay was fantastic, and then Smash takes the MVP with the MVP moment that all of us will remember, the true shot barrage, as you said. But when they walked out against KC and everyone was booing him, and he had that anti-hero villain smile that he tried to hold in, he couldn't contain it, and he just smiled in their face, and then silences them to the point there. When they win, they go to the totem, they put their key in, they lift the trophy. Everyone was chanting ShowMaker's name. Wolf, like, that felt like such a fantastic moment because this Dplus Kia squad doesn't have anyone more than 2 years tenured other than ShowMaker. They made a all-in decision to build around their superstar mid laner, and for the past several years, it looked like, maybe this is one of those leave the game before it leaves you moment. Maybe this is like we're seeing the end of a star. The star is starting to fade, and it feels terrible to watch it happen live. And then ShowMaker has his moment, and then everyone gathering around that and chanting his name as he left. It was cool. They didn't chant Smash. They didn't chant Career, who had himself a great day as well. They chanted ShowMaker's name. And it was like just such a great reminder that the old dogs still got it and they can continue to push it if they work as hard as he does.
Yeah, it was really similar in Hong Kong, right? I know we've talked about it on the show, but ShowMaker was the one who carried the mantle there, as all the long-standing league fans know him the most, and some of them who are obviously a little bit more casual know him the most. So felt very similar to that. I think it was Smash who said in an interview where he said, like, I don't mind the booing because I know I can convert them into being our fans.
Yep.
But it really did feel like that came true there in the end. And ShowMaker did another interview, perhaps after returning to Korea. It might have been from his hotel room, but I saw he did an interview online where he basically said he totally understands the European football culture and the booing culture, and how he totally expected that, and how like he was actually into it. He liked it because he knows that's the vibe, that's the culture. I know, just everything came together for Dplus in such a huge way. It's like they got energy from the boos, right? And also to make this clear, I've seen a lot of boos across esports from Western fans. You'll never see it in Korea, by the way. Like, never, ever, almost. Like, I don't think I've ever seen it. I was just at an MMA fight the other night, and I'm not going to get into the details, but one of the fighters basically ruined the match, essentially, from the standpoint of the crowd. Was a non-Korean fighter fighting against a Korean fighter who's quite famous, and the crowd didn't like him, and the crowd was just kind of quiet. They were not happy. And then someone in the crowd just screamed. The fighter that was fighting against him was Psycho. You could look this up. Anyway, I'm not going to get into the details of it. I'm not even that well versed, so I just went because my friend invited me. One guy just screamed, "Fuck you, Psycho!" to him. But it was probably a Westerner in the audience who said that. And otherwise, it's totally silent. That culture doesn't exist here. So for ShowMaker to be like, "No, I know football. I know this." Probably also, I don't know. I'm reaching a little bit here, but probably also told his players, like, this might happen. Be aware of it. Like, I in my headcanon, he probably told these guys, like, just like soak it in. It's gonna happen, and it had been happening a little bit already throughout the event. But in Overwatch League, it happened all the time. when a fan favorite was playing against a Korean squad, they boo the Korean squad, whatever. Happened from time to time. The faceless Koreans narrative was still a thing in NA a lot back then. I feel like that's kind of died down a huge way.
Yeah.
But when you see the boos, even in Overwatch League when it happened, and we see it here, no one is actually being disrespectful. It's basically, I find, in my opinion, the boos are actually a way to cheer for your own team. It's basically being like, I'm cheering for my team, and I'm also like, I don't like these guys because they're not my team. No one is trying to like put Dplus down. And you could see, the crowd was silent during the game, but like you said, they chanted ShowMaker's name. A lot of people came up, a large portion of the crowd came up and cheered them on when they lifted the cup and all that stuff. Well, not the cup, but I don't know, EWC terms are weird, but you know what I'm talking about. The trophy. And I think I saw a lot of comments online being like, oh, they're not booing now. Like, I bet they feel so silly because they were so I don't think it's a disrespect thing. I think you gotta, if you're especially in an Asian mindset, you gotta shift the perspective and thinking about this is like not a disrespect thing. It's like a big upping KC by also being like, you're not our people. These are our people. We cheer for them. So I just want to put that in context because I've seen so many comments online. People like, man, the KC fans are just so horrible and so mean and so. It's not like that. We met all of them in person. They're super chill. They're super excited.
Yeah. The one that got me was, and it was, they were already cheering. I think KC beat T1. Kometo goes out of his seat into the stands to cheer with his KC fans, which I thought was an amazing moment. I have a video of it. It was awesome. But then on the screen, they showed some crying T1 fans, and the cheering kept going. It like strengthened the cheering, and I think it was cheering, that they won, and less about the two gals that showed on screen were crying. But I was like, that didn't feel that good. But that had less to do with the fact that they were crying and more the fact that KC had won. And that's kind of, not all actions from KC I will defend, but that one I would 100% defend. They had just achieved what they had set out to do as an organization years ago. And then they had that Red Bull League of Our Own, and then, whatever, they're playing like Teemo mid or whatever. And now in a real, true competitive match against T1, they won. They straight up won. Yes, I would celebrate that.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between. I think people, ironically, people compare T1 fans and KC fans a lot because of their sometimes aggressive online postings about either defending or attacking people who disagree with their opinions. And I think that's true of any large fan base. The truth is, KC has a massive fan base, so there are going to be the larger anything gets, the more bad eggs exist, even if they're a tiny percentage, right? And the more aggressive and angry and sometimes inappropriate posters will exist. Like it exists for every major fan base in League of Legends and across all esports, from Counter-Strike to Street Fighter. But my point is, I think a lot of people associated with the worst they've seen of KC fans with the boos and the audience reactions. And I personally think they couldn't be, from what I saw there, couldn't be further from the opposite. And that's always how it's been in esports, You go to LAN, you talk shit about that guy online, you guys hate each other, you go to LAN, you don't talk shit because it's in person, it's a little weird, you play a game, and then you go hang out and get beers later, and then he becomes your best friend. Like, that's how it goes. Like, and that's true of, like, fan bases, everything. The internet makes, because of the anonymous nature of it, people say rude things, they say mean things I would never say in person. It's just the truth, guys. So don't hate on KC fans that were in the audience doing boos, because that's just the culture.
Yeah, and when ShowMaker shut them up, they did shut up. They didn't say mean things. They just cheered for their KC fans and applauded for the trophy lifts for Dplus. So, anyways, we have other news to dive into Dplus, as Wolf was alluding to. But before we do, it's time to remind you about a new sponsor here over on LCK, the LCK show. It's called Zen AI. What is Zen AI? Well, it's pioneering in vibecasting, a new category where human conversation is front and center. The vibecasted conversation, Zen AI, turns it into something worth sharing. Now, what does that mean? How does that work? Well, it's portable, it's on your phone, and it's it basically is the studio. It helps you kind of create your podcast out of a conversation. So there is more of like just chatting about a topic that you care about. Start recording on your phone, and Vibecast and Zen AI helps you turn it into a product that you want, whether it's a podcast, a reel, a TikTok, with no production skills required. The way I'm going to use it is with golf, right? I go golfing a lot. I go to the simulator a ton, Wolf, and I always want to talk about it and make like just this short thing of like, here's what I'm working on. If anyone else has this problem, here's how I fix it. Good luck watching all the different videos there in golf, but I want to share what I've learned. Boom. Zenai could definitely help me there with that. So make sure to head on over to zen.ai to sign up now and join the invite-only beta, which is what Zen AI is currently in. Join the waitlist today for a chance at early access. That's zen.ai to sign up, or head on over to the comments and check out our direct link. Thanks to Zen AI. Check it out. If you ever thought about starting content pieces, Zen AI will help you start your journey. All right. Now, Wolf, you want to finish up the the fact finding of the smack talking?
I just like I mean we don't have to go deeper into the KC fans thing. I don't know. As you know, I get heated on this show sometimes when I see people saying things that I see in person with my eyes are untrue. Like often the narrative gets out of control online on Twitter for people who aren't there, who aren't even really paying attention, just got invested in the narrative because they saw it on Twitter and they're like, "What? I heard the KC fans were bad. That's awful. I got to type about it." And it wasn't true. So let's move on from that and let's talk about Dplus and their financial situation, which, you know, for me, I'm in. I hear a lot of rumors, right? Some of them actually, a lot of them end up being false or misreported, or I mean, like sometimes they're not even reported, right? Sometimes they're just a conversation, and then we find out later, oh, it's not true, or a reporting comes out that contradicts the rumor, and then you got to dig deeper and figure out what's going on. My bottom line is, I had heard about this because I think a lot of people were very worried about this for about a week before the article about Dplus's financial situation came out. And I didn't want to believe it, and I wanted to hope that it wasn't true, but it came out. And then, what was it? Within an hour, I want to say, Dplus made a statement, and essentially, and I'm not going to get into the weeds of all of this because I want to just tie it into EWC, but Dplus made a statement saying, like, look, our players are trying to hang in there with us. We're trying to figure this out. We're going through a sale process. They were very transparent, which is, for Korean esports, like almost impossible somehow, which drives me crazy. Like never actually going to tell the truth. Always going to like, I mean, they did say like, this is Dplus Kia's front office. Like they never name anybody. No one's ever responsible. But anyway, ultimately, I mean, you can look up who the people are who are responsible. I'm not going to get into that right now, but ultimately they made a statement about it and said, we're trying to sell a team. We're going to fix this. And made it pretty clear the players were on board with the situation and aren't going to just be like, you know what, I didn't get paid and so I'm out of here, which could have happened, which was very scary for a lot of people. There are clauses in the LCK rules about being able to just, if your team doesn't pay you, just leave with no penalty. So like all the Dplus players could have been like, I'm free agents, I'm going to Europe to make big money. But obviously they're working it out. The context of this matters, which is one of the big narratives of EWC. It was a huge narrative for EWC, which is that like this team has no money and EWC has a massive prize pool. So that was kind of a fun talking point, I think, behind the curtain for us, like in the green room backstage, because it was something that was really difficult to acknowledge on camera. I think it's something that we could talk about here. That's the whole point of Last Free Nation, is we're free to talk about anything. It didn't feel appropriate to acknowledge on broadcast because, you know, it's a financial struggle they're going through, and I struggle with it because I wanted to bring it up narratively in some way, but no matter which way I did it, it felt like it was cheapening their achievements. Like I know Reddit was like, they won because they're hungry and poor, which, you know, it's very funny, but like that's just not like broadcast appropriate. It's just not true either. They're not like poor and they're not hungry.
It's these takes where it's like, that is, we don't know if they're hungry.
They're not
I don't
actually
know if
hungry. They're
poor.
fine. Like, they got paid last month. Like ShowMaker has a massive salary. Okay, the rest of the players have enough salary to where
Smash
like
was
they're
on
actually
T1,
doing,
bro.
yeah,
It's
they're
his
fine.
career. Career's the one that was hungry and poor. That's why he played so well on Lux. Like, what do you want me to do with this narrative? Now that we've brought it up, let's pretend we're on the show. Wolf, these guys, obviously, it's been stated that they're not getting paid. They must be hungry and poor, which is why they're playing better than KC, which are full and rich.
Yeah, I mean, like,
What do
I
you
think
think?
I've been ShowMaker's been just eating kimbap every day. 2001, 2501. You know what? Actually, when I was young, it used to be 1001.
Like,
When
what
I
are we
first moved to
supposed to do
Korea,
with this?
kimbap was 1001, but now it's like 4,000. It's 4 times as expensive. ShowMaker's broke, man. He's struggling. He's gonna have to go. He's just gonna have to go eat ramen with no like boiled water. He's just gonna have to eat the dry ramen.
Like, even if we read the factual statement that Dplus put out during the tournament, I still, and I had Wolf, this. I feel like I had a lot of control over the narrative that we were pushing out at EWC, like for the teams, Even if we read this statement, like the only thing he could do is like, let's see. During this process, temporary disruptions occurred in our financial planning, which ultimately led to the unfortunate situation where the players' salaries were delayed by 1 month. Wolf, I feel like this is another distraction that Dplus KIA have to get through. Like, that's probably the best that
It's
you
about
can
as best
do.
you can do. Or like in the call, I thought about in like final calls, like a team in crisis overcomes whatever. But like that's about as much as you can really do. Otherwise, you're just like
You're taking away from their
paid for a month.
achievement.
But anyway, yeah. So like
Yeah.
they're yeah. So it's just it doesn't. But ultimately, I think it is important because it is on the minds of all these players. I do think that, and look, it is speculation to say that, right? I can't
I
tell
was
you
about to say,
factually. I talked to all
yeah.
5 players, and they were like, "Yeah, we were stressed out about it during the tournament." But as someone who has been often paid late, especially when like I've been paid late, I won't name names of companies, obviously, but there's been times in Korea, especially when I first moved here, where I did work and thought, okay, I'm good. I can pay rent this month, and it got delayed, and I had to borrow money to pay rent. That's not the situation they're in. But when you get paid late and you deserve to be paid, and you've got responsibilities, who knows? Like, I don't know these players' situation. Career might have a sick family member he's trying to take care of, and he
Sure.
can't do it because we don't know, right? Well, ultimately, it is going to bother them. But in my experience, when me and colleagues at several different companies I worked at, because I've been a freelancer for a really long time, companies you guys have never heard of, games you've never heard of, uh, didn't get paid. Me and the team who struggled through that became a lot closer because we all had this shared experience because we all work together. We're all on a team, but we're all like struggling through this like invisible enemy of like the company doesn't have the money. What are we gonna do? How are we gonna solve this? Like, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna be able to figure this out together? Kind of thing. And like in some senses, you could make this fictional argument that like they came together as a squad with this shared bond of like, oh my god, are we leaving this team? Are they ever going to be able to fix it? What's going to happen? Especially considering some of these players are super young, right? Like imagine being Shiu and being told like, oh, you're not gonna get paid, and your parents are probably starting to understand esports a little bit. I mean, they've supported you so far. You went through challenges, you got into the big league, but now like you can't get paid by this huge organization. Like, but thought you're sponsored by you. You can imagine the older parent who doesn't understand esports being like, but aren't you with like Kia? Can't you just like doesn't the money just come in? Like, what's going on? Like, Kia's a pretty big company and being like really young and having to navigate through all that and ShowMaker having to deal with all that. This is all just fiction, right? I've just created this fake narrative that doesn't exist. But I think in a lot of people's headcanon, they wanted to believe that they all bonded together, right? And I wanted to believe like they all bonded together. This was a shared struggle. They overcame together. They played better than they did all year. And I felt like the narrative, even though it wasn't broadcast friendly, and it was often memed a lot more than it was kind of like, wow, they really did it. Like there wasn't a lot of people tweeting like, damn, they were like, not able to even get paid. They're probably so stressed out, but they still played so well. Like I didn't see that narrative online that much, but I feel like a lot of people felt it in their hearts, especially true Dplus fans. So I wanted to bring that up because it's something that we all wanted to say, but couldn't find the right words to say on TV, basically.
Yeah, and especially it was a developing situation when we first heard of it. again, I think the biggest takeaway is how quickly Dplus Kia put out an official statement to a rumor. Like that was fascinating because that doesn't normally happen. And the official statement was just owning it, accountability, and clarification for that. A lot of the time, it's acknowledging this thing exists and then being vague about how they're gonna, like being vague about it.
Or if it
But
exists, the fact that it exists is vague. Like it's like
yes,
this may or may not possibly almost be a thing. We are looking into it. It's like it's a thing. Everyone knows it's a thing. But it's hard.
I know that it is. I know that it is a priority for League and the LCK to figure out what's up, what happened, and what the next steps will be. So hopefully the players and CV Max, the staff, will just lock in on the competitive side of things and don't have questions about job security that almost everyone in life has. But specifically when you are in a performance-based industry, like being distracted like that could be tough, but I know that it's on the forefront of Riot's minds to get to the bottom of it, given the fact that Dplus Kia is one of their marquee brands, one of the few organizations out of the thousands that have spawned because of League to have won the world championship. Like it is definitely paramount for them to come to a solution that makes sense. So
My prediction now is they will sell. I think, especially with this EWC win, how marketable players look here, how popular they are domestically here in Korea right now, especially after that win, where they were being jokingly called Homeplus Kia because Homeplus is a big shopping mall here in Korea. Think like Walmart if you're American. Like they're that type of company where they do groceries, but also like all a bunch of household products. They have like a games section where they sell, physical games, although that's going away. It's a very small section. But they're struggling right now in this economy, especially with the rise of like online grocery shopping and all that stuff. So that's a brief history of what's going on with Homeplus. But that became a meme, the Homeplus Kia, because they're basically bankrupt, Homeplus. And it was very funny when we found out about it. It was Huni who told us about it because, like, if you open F1 Korea, you're like, you couldn't miss it. But I hadn't seen anything. It was very funny. But like, they overcame everything, right? The Korean fans are super into the situation, like where they overcame as well. Like they have the same fan reactions as the Westerners, except they're more popular and more known here. So I think they will right the ship. I don't think. I mean, when I first heard about this, I was like, ooh, that's really scary. And then they won EWC and I don't know, the whole tone has changed so much. The players looked so confident. Speculation, but my guess based on how this has gone in the past, right now it's more probably about how much they'll sell for, and that's like the last final things they're probably getting figured out. I don't think we're living in a world where this is going to go on for another month. Players are not going to get paid for one more month, and then they're going to jump ship and go to other regions and be free agents, and like the whole team will collapse, and we're going to like be down a team in the LCK, and we don't know what's going to like. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think people should worry about that. I don't think most people are worried about that, but I was worried about it when I first heard about this, and now I'm like, okay, I think this EWC win really helps that, and I think that they will get out of this. I think it's going to be okay.
Yeah. Let's turn our focus to the future here. LCK starts tomorrow, as of this recording, probably today if you're watching the recording. Wolf, who are our 4 teams going to Worlds? It's our way too early, but maybe not too early, predictions for our 4 Worlds teams. Does Dplus take KT's spot? Does Gen.G crash out? Does T1?
I
mean,
I
T1's
think
going.
T1 is still going to go to Worlds.
Okay, all right. Drama over.
T1, I think T1 will have a lot of work to do, but T1 always figures it out. I think they will. Even if they come as our 4th seed, like worst case scenario, I think no matter what, they'll be there. I'm thinking Gen.G, Hanwha, T1. And right now, I don't know what's going on with KT. KT in Kespa Cup has mixed their roster up a little bit. They're playing like BDD and Sylvie. And then yesterday played their Challengers roster with Finrer, like the full Challengers roster. and Fenrir actually looked like really good. Sylvie had a great early game. They made the early game against Gen.G look like very playable. They were actually playing really well. Ruler survived with like 20 health like 4 times when they were trying to dive him. And if he had died, any of those times, they would have gotten KT would have gotten further ahead. Like it backfired, but they played really, really well. And since this recording is not going to go out before the match, I can say it because I have the rosters. Like they're starting their full roster plus Fenrir today in their knockout match. So I believe it's knockout match actually. This format has changed a lot this year, so I need to check one more time. But I believe it's if you lose, you are out. Oh, I'm checking. Anyway, the point is it's aiming's out, Fenrir's in. So that's interesting. I don't know what it means. Maybe it doesn't mean anything. Maybe aiming just wants to take a break. But they're playing against QMDRX, who I would argue they're favored against, but who knows with the roster. But is KT calling Fenrir up? Fenrir looks really good. I don't know what's happening. Is it just a Kespa Cup shenanigan situation? I don't know. I think Dplus looks better than KT right now. They look like a real team. They're a real roster. So, like, if I had to make my prediction of top 4, it's Dplus, not KT. I think it probably is for you too.
Okay, so this makes me so mad, right? Because how many times have we been aiming defending, despite the fact that no one wants to be an aiming defender?
It's true. It's true.
It's true, right? Like, to me, it's been a cuz problem, and then efforts level fell off after the initial bump. And so seeing Sylvie get a chance here, again, looks weird. You have Cuz, who we know is high highs, but Cuz is a tilter, man. When things go wrong, you just, when things go right, he has that same, like, smile. When things go wrong, it's just bit down a little bit more. His he just bites down a little more, and then he just plays like a maniac and ints the game away. So Sylvie getting a shot, I think, feels okay. But you're right, man. Like, what are we doing? Why is Fenrir getting in? Fenrir could be great, but aiming has been your best player. He's been your best player. When shit was going down around him, it wasn't his fault. The Blitzcrank hook on Dplus KIA wasn't his fault. It was ShowMaker's fault, and people keep blaming him for that. Oh, my God. KT, like, please, man. Like, it's going to be Dplus. It's going to be Dplus. Like, They got over the hump. They finally won something when it mattered. And yes, they played KC in the best of 5, right? I wish it could have been someone more established in the best of 5, but still they did it. They had the toughest road at EWC, man. The list of teams that they had to beat was crazy.
Yeah.
So I do think it's the same for if there was a team. Oh, go ahead, Wolf. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, look, KT, we don't know what's happening at LCK yet. I'm just all Kespa Cup stuff, right? They could lose to QMDRX and just be out of the tournament. As far as I can tell, it is an elimination match, just from looking at like Leaguepedia and the data that I have. But Kespa Cup is weird, and I actually don't. The format is like I think they call on Leaguepedia like a quadruple round robin. I think it's double elimination into. It's not double elimination, it's triple and quadruple elimination, depending on where you're seated. It's like very, very, very weird format that I'm still wrapping my head around. Even though I'm commentating it today, I will be talking with the writers when I get there to be like, all right, can you explain this again? And anyway, we don't know if this is real or not.
Yeah.
If it is real and Fenrir's playing in the LCK, with how he was playing yesterday and what I've seen of him in the past, like he's improved a lot and maybe he deserves a shot, but I agree with you. I'm just tired of the silliness with the roster, KT. Like, how many support players do we have? What are we doing with the AD carry if we're putting Fenrir in? We've already been messing around with, like, in years past, the Poduk Duck Dom situation. Just like lock in, make a team, play well, play consistently, please. But I mean, it's KT, so of course they won't. Whatever. Yeah, it's gonna be Dplus.
It hopefully is Dplus. Like, after this win, hopefully it's Dplus. The team that I am most worried about, though, out of the big 3, and you can correct me if I'm overcooking here, and especially given the fact that ShowMaker has just won, and shown his form yet again, that he's still got it. I think it's Gen.G, man.
You're worried
I'm
about
a little
Gen.G.
worried about Gen.G. I'm a little worried about Ruler. I'm a little worried about Ruler right now. I think their bot lane has been a little meh, and also I think Keen has gotten a pretty big pass on not showing up in clutch in clutch moments. Like, I think Keen's level is lower than what we're used to seeing, where it was by far undisputed #1 top laner, no questions asked. And now I'm like, I don't know if that can be said anymore, given the way that Zeus is played. And I can't believe I'm using this. Doran's highs might be higher than Keen's highs, but Doran's low is definitely lower. I won't defend that one. But I feel like he's had those kind of moments as well, including EWC, where he had himself a pretty good tournament after a pretty terrible tournament at MSI. Like, that's Doran there. But I feel like Keen as well. So it's Chovy kind of carrying this load. I think Canyon has been good. I think Canyon's been good. And then I think the bot lane has been kind of refiguring out this new meta, this new form, and Duro is still figured out his new form, and then Keen has, like, I'm worried about this team. This is the team I'm most worried about.
Top lane is bullshit. I think top lane meta is stupid right now. And so, like, I think people criticize all three of those, our top three top laners in that conversation, a ton, because sometimes you have a bad game. Top lane is volatile. Resources go to bottom lane for the most part right now.
Yep.
Or if your jungler is like, I'm going to focus bottom lane, and then you end up in a matchup like, I don't know, say Ambessa versus Gnar, where you're Gnar, you're trying to space it. You think you're going to be fine. Ambessa goes electrocute, and then the Ambessa gets ahead and you can't play the game anymore. You're like, oh, and everyone's like, Doran's so terrible. He went 0-3 when he got camped the whole game. Tried his best, tried to make a few outplays, but like Owner was, making plays where it mattered more to T1 at that time, right? Like, I think people don't understand top lane because people will literally shit on Doran and Zeus in the same week as they're both so horrible and need to be replaced when they have like one bad game, because that's how top lane works. And in this meta where you get counted by Vayne, Tristana, Ambessa gets ahead because ganks, whatever, the Yorick into Jace, all of the different weird volatility that's in this top lane meta, where tanks are not a thing. A lot of time you could just play silent in the past. You can just play silent and sit there, and you're not going to go 0-4 in the game, and then people won't be able to say anything about you, even if you do get camped the whole game. You're silent, you're fine. But yeah, this meta is a little bit more fragile, a little bit more stupid. So I think people are criticizing Doran a ton, and then I cast Hete yesterday, who's the Challengers player who I've seen a lot of meme signs about. It's EWC, but bring Hete to T1. He's very good, by the way. He's really good. He popped off. He got MVP. He played Jace, which is one of Doran's better picks right now. And everyone was like, see, this is why, because T1 lost yesterday with their main roster to Nongshim. That did happen. You might not have known that. And if you're watching this on Disney Plus, you might not have known that. But Nongshim won in the comeback game against T1. And then they played their Challengers roster against the DNS roster, main roster, and bopped the DNS roster. So people were like, see, Doran is... I'm like, come on, it's DNS. It's DNS. And Nongshim barely won, and it was a comeback win, and T1 had draft issues. Like, I think Doran has problems. Like, don't get me wrong. But to claim that Doran is, like, the worst top laner in the Legend group, or that, like, he needs to be replaced ASAP is just hyperbole that I'm tired of hearing.
Brother, I have forgotten. I can't believe I forgot, but I have forgotten how bad it's been for DNS this year as we focus on to next week. I swore they've won more than one series, but I guess they haven't.
No.
That's crazy.
No.
This wasn't a dunking on the DNS fans and DNS. 4-26 is what they ended up last year. I swore they had won like 3 or like two or 3.
I think they won. They won some LCK Cup games, right? So I think that might be part of what you're remembering.
My goodness. Oh wow. They are 1-17, 3-34. Like, my boy Berserker getting absolutely shit on. It's just
But
the product
now
of
it's
this team.
Duckers.
Now it's Duckers, yes.
Peter and
No.
Duck.
I meant
Oh man, they were
no.
world finalists
Yeah, that's what I
last
meant.
year.
Last season, they were like, Berserker was the problem. Now we have world finalists Duckers and Peter. Well, it's Duckers and someone. All right. Anyways, let's do. I just need to do a quick check on who was in Rise Group to see if there was a Rise Group candidate to make it to Worlds other than the bros, the Giga Chad bros, but I don't think it's worth it. Like, Nongshim maybe. Give Diablo some time to allow Lehens to
I
mold
don't
him
know.
into the 80 carry that he is now.
I don't know.
Okay. All right.
He did play Jin yesterday in that win against T1, and he popped off and I believe got POG. I know I voted for him, but he did not play Mage. I haven't seen his Mage game yet, so we'll see.
Let us know in the comments if you think our top 4 are correct and if we're just EWC pilled and all the chance of Showmaker and all that stuff pilled. But I mean, we've seen them beat Gen.G. I feel like they can beat T1. I feel like Hanwha has some oopsie games. Like, you know how to beat Hanwha. It's once you shut down Kanavi, then you got to stop Guma. And never mind. I don't think they're going to beat Hanwha. Hanwha's too hard. MVP candidate in the mid lane. You've got kind of play weak side, especially now with this mage meta and roaming support style for bot lane. And then Zeus reignited his top lane dominance. I don't know. This team.
I mean, Guma is popping off in the Mage meta, weirdly enough. Like, his Ziggs is doing really well. He played Zareth yesterday in Kespa Cup. He's thriving right now. So I think this team is really good. Obviously had a really tough win at MSI and had a tough draw at Esports World Cup. So should we do Preds? Should we it's our first time in a really long time. I know this episode is really long, but I think it deserved to be since we haven't done one in so long.
Yeah. Let's do it. All right. Wolf, it's time. Legend Group, but more importantly, Fries Group, baby. It's back. And that's what we start off with. Week 10. Is that what we're going to call it? I wonder what G-Sun's going to make me call it, whether it's week 10 or round 3. I don't know. Either way. Week 10 on Leaguepedia. KRX versus Nongshim.
I think it's week 10, but yeah.
Lazy Beal's back in, I think.
He was in Kespa Cup, so that is my assumption as well. I think this is a Nongshim win, but I'm also kind of feeling that way just because they did win a best of 1 against T1's main roster with a comeback win. Maybe I shouldn't necessarily believe too much in that. Lehens also had like 11 deaths on Camille in the win or something like that, but they won. They did win. So I'm gonna go Nongshim, I think, on this one. Rich looks pretty good. Like, he looked, I mean, pretty good as in like from Rich standards, because it's like Rich is pretty good to like worst top laner in the world is like at the bottom. So
when are we getting Vincenzo, man?
Wheeler did not look great yesterday. We literally had a small talk about it on Kespa Cup yesterday because we're like, why'd you even get this guy? He's super talented. You're gonna give Lazy Feel a shot, but you're not gonna give Vincenzo a shot.
If QM DRX did not have Vincenzo, I'd be like, yeah, give Willie some more time. But because you have Vincenzo, you did this to yourself. Did this to yourself. So yes, I think it might be time for some Vincenzo. I'm sorry, Free Willer. We'll see. So yeah, give me Nongshim. I am on the Nongshim train. There's just too much talent on this team to be fucking 9th in the LCK right now. Like, they're 9th because of game score. It's just crazy. T1 versus KT. A telecom war.
Are they playing Fenrir? Are they playing aiming? I don't know. T1 looking, to be honest, just out of sorts right now. Their early game is great, and then they just don't. They don't do great dragon steps. Their barons are too risky. Like, the T1 baron keeps getting punished. It's weird. I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to bounce back. I think they'll beat KT in a best of 3. If it's a best of 1, I might do for funsies pred for KT, but nah. Gonna go T1.
Is it firmware? Is it aiming? It doesn't matter, Wolf. Give me T1. I do wonder, could they just field this Academy roster one more time? And then they can get the big guns out for the Gen.G T1 match because it's the Gen.G Roadshow later on that week. They could do it. They could be like, you guys just focus on Gen.G. Well, also take some time off. Like, we've talked about it. Unfortunately, they're in Legend Group, so there are no, like, quote-unquote easy games, but this theoretically would be an easy game. I don't know. I'm probably cooking too much here.
I think you're cooking.
Give me T1. DNS B&K. Oh, yes. Oh, it's Rise Group. All right. DNS gonna win, maybe?
No.
They learned a lot from T1 Academy that they can bring into the match against B&K. Taeyun and Co. coming to town.
I don't think so.
Vic might have a stinker.
It's not a closer meta, He played Lock yesterday and looked bad. Sorry, I got some in my throat. If it continues, I'm gonna go get water. But DN Supers just look. It was tragic. It was tragic yesterday. It was tragic. I can't predict this team until I see something else. Sorry.
All right.
Sorry, Duckers. You're not elite anymore.
No, he's out of elite. Hanwha Dplus. Yeah, sorry, I'm B&K as well. Hanwha Dplus. I want to believe.
This is an interesting one. This is a actually interesting one. I knew about some of the big matches this week, like Gen.G Dplus, and I knew about Gen.G T1. I actually didn't realize this matchup was happening this week as well. It's just Legend Group is just it's because
fun.
Dplus is relevant. It's like, oh shit, this is actually epic. Because usually it's like, okay, we have 3 top teams and then 2 teams that get beat up, but maybe Dplus doesn't get beat up now. Maybe only KT gets beat up now.
I think the big matchup for me is in the top lane. It's is Shiwu going to be able to handle Zeus? I think Smash and Guma going head to head is always good drama, especially given the form of both these guys. But to me, it's will Shiwu find the edges there over Zeus and stop him from having impact later? Because we've seen Zeus lose in lane and then just TP in and have impact in the game, despite the fact that he's losing lane.
It's important to mention that despite the fact that Dplus did win EWC and HLE dropped out in the first round of knockouts, they lost a best of 3 to T1. Dplus did not beat HLE. They won the tournament and HLE did not. I think a lot of people are like, but HLE did so badly comparatively. They lost in the Civil War. I want to do it. I want to pred Dplus. I really want to, because there's actual reasons you could think of. You could be like, oh, okay, yeah, Kanavi's going a little bit too fast and too loose, and Smash is looking really good right now. ShowMaker's in pretty good form. He might not, gets thrashed by Zeka. And Zeus has had his, instabilities, as everyone does in this meta, right? Anyone could beat anyone in the top lane with the right resources, but I don't think I can predict it. I don't think I can tell you guys I would expect that Dplus will win. I think it absolutely could happen, but I'm going to go HLE. And I'm happy to be wrong, but I think HLE is a stronger team overall, especially in the best of 3.
Yeah, give me HLE as well. I couldn't do it. I went pretty safe this week, Wolf. I went pretty safe with this week. Gen.G versus T1.
Okay, so you and I think, have opposite. This is what I'm waiting to talk about, because I think you and I have opposite reasons.
I told you,
worried about Ruler.
I'm worried about Ruler.
You're worried about Ruler. I'm not that worried about Ruler, because I think we've seen a few different ways to make AD carry still relevant in the draft. Ezreal is still strong. We're seeing Jhin played a lot. You could go for Syndra early and go for one of those Syndra, Jhin, Ambessa type drafts. I think Gen.G are stable here, and I think their team fighting is incredible. And I think T1's team fighting, especially in the mid to late game, is just really all over the place. I don't want to say it's bad.
Correct.
But it's been easily punished. It's been punished by bad teams. It's so fragile that I don't want to call Casey a bad team, but you know what I mean? They're not on Gen.G's level, in my opinion. And I just think with how fragile T1 are, I think that even if they have a great early game, Gen.G can outplay them and get back in. So I'm actually going to go Gen.G here.
Wolf, who has been T1's best player lately?
It pays, I would
It's
say.
been Pays. Who am I worried about on Gen.G? What kind of meta is this? That's my thinking. That is my thinking.
Hayes has been both amazing on mages, but sometimes just has like a horrible game on like Talia. And like he'll get a lead on Talia. They'll play through some early game stuff. They'll get that dragon fight where he walls people off. And then he'll just like run it down in the mid lane and get picked and they'll lose the Baron. I'm like, what? How could this happen? I think Pays is incredible, but it's almost like he's carrying too much weight on this
I agree.
team.
I
That
agree.
he's
I
like
agree.
making some mistakes trying to overcompensate for whatever else is going around. Um, I don't think any individual player is the problem with T1. I think it's the overall, and maybe it's the shot calling, so you could put some blame on Faker, but it's not his individual like mechanics that I'm talking about. Just the decision making on when to fight, how to go into fights, like when they don't have vision control, still opting into fights, not knowing when to say no, is my biggest issue with T1 outside of drafting, which I don't want to talk about anymore because we've talked about it to death and we'll be spending probably a lot of weeks talking about it coming up here. But I actually was surprised to see that most of our talent group predicted T1 because for me, I think this is one of the easier big matchups. Like I think it's easier to predict Gen.G here than it was for me to predict Hanwha against Dplus. So that's my take. Sorry, T1. You
All right,
got
we're
to figure it
split
out.
here.
You will.
That is, of course, at the Gen.G home ground, which I think is awesome that they're doing it, and I love home grounds. Unfortunately, I'm working both days, so won't be able to go. And then we got the return of the bros. That's right. Hanjin Brian versus Kiwoom DRX doing battle. And the bros with the roster move as well. It's not just Lazy Feel getting all the acclaim there by Kiwoom. There's no longer any distractions. Bromer will be unleashed as Brokey has gone back on over to try and compete with the spot with APA over at Cloud9. No more distractions, just one brotherhood.
By the way, we didn't really get to talk about that, but that was what you and I were hoping happened to Loki, right? So I'm glad that came true. We're like, I hope he gets to go to another team and get another chance, and he did. So that's I'm glad Bro didn't like keep him in jail and keep him on the bench, and it all worked out. I think this is gonna sound weird. I think it's a really good meta for Namgung because he plays
weird.
a Pike. he plays a good Pike. Like he'll play Pantheon. I know Pantheon's not that meta right now, but can be played in the bottom lane. Obviously, he likes to play Engage Sports. He likes to play Knowledge. He likes to play Leona. I think he was very uncomfortable in the Karma, Lulu, more Enchanter focused meta. So I like Bro's chances of being able to stabilize because Bro was going to the moon for a little while, and then they had that really tough strength of schedule where they played okay, but just couldn't actually ultimately overcome. If you guys remember back to round 2, where we were wondering, like, is Bro Legend Group? That actually was on the table. I think they can recover. I think this is a good match to start your second half of the season with. I think this is a good like confidence booster W to pick up for Bro. I'm going Bro on this one.
This is I need to triple fact check it, but I'm pretty sure this is the match of the oldest player against the youngest player. Lazy Feel versus Uncle Teddy. Yeah. Because who is the younger AD carry? I know Diablo. Oh, never mind. That might be it. Diablo. Is Diablo younger than Lazy Feel?
I think Diablo is younger than Lazy Feel, yeah.
18, October 17th, Lazy Feel.
They might be the same year.
Okay, no, yeah, never mind. Oh, I was cooking too much there, but no. Yeah, March 19th. So he already turned 19, did Lazy Feel. Goodness gracious. Olge. All right. The bros get the dub. Nongshim versus B&K. This is an important matchup for both these squads.
I think a lot of people would just vote against Nongshim right now because we go all the way back to the Taeyun trade and this rivalry, right? That we're gonna see quite a few times. But everyone was like, no, Nongshim won, they got Diablo, and then we were like, no, obviously Taeyun is better, as we learned. I don't think that's what this matchup's about anymore, and we might even see mages in this best of 3. Who knows? Might find out that Taeyun can't play any mages. Who really knows? But I'm Kespa Cup pilled again. Like, I saw Nongshim beat T1 yesterday. I saw how they played. I saw how much peel. Like, the peel was unreal for Diablo. Like, they played through Diablo's Jin of all champions, and he just popped off and carried the late game. It was really cool to watch. That makes me feel like there's some hope that Nongshim actually used the offseason really well. I also saw B&K play yesterday, and I don't even really remember the game, to be honest. I think Vikla played Victor, and it was like he was the only one who didn't get wrecked in the game, but he didn't do a whole lot either. And I barely remember the game, so I'm kind of like, was not impressed by B&K. I think they both played against top teams. I think B&K might have played against Gen.G. I cast so many games yesterday, so hard to remember everything. B&K's game was not a memorable one. Nongshim's was. So I'm kind of biased in 2 best of 1s that I watched yesterday, but I think I'm going to go Nongshim here because of that. Because it's what I just saw with my eyes, and I'm going to put that in my brain and plug it into here. I know it's best of 3s, and it's different, and B&K has the more winning record into this matchup from rounds 1 and 2, but I think Nongshim will turn it around. Hoping.
I did my Preds already earlier because G-Sun asked. I picked B&K. I'm sticking with B&K. B&K winning the battle of the trade that will continue on for 2 more matches. Gen.G versus Dplus. Always a good series. I want to know
your thoughts on this, because you were like not anti, but worried about Ruler, let's say.
Yes.
A little down on Ruler at the moment. Smash ends up getting MVP at EWC.
Yes.
Smash playing a little bit more 80 carries than he is playing mages, but still playing some mages pretty well. ShowMaker is great meta for him. Syndra relevant. Chovy, not really a Syndra player that much. If you're like down on Ruler, you got to vote D+ here, right? Like you're a D+ voter for sure, right?
I should be, but I feel like we're back at the LCK. I couldn't wrap my head around Gen.G losing both matches during their homestand in an LCK match where they always win at home. It should be, I should be worried about the bot lane. Actually, where I worry here is the consistency of career. Right? Career, I'm not worried about Smash, actually. I still think that's a pretty big plus, in my opinion. But it's more about career showed up at EWC with great moments, but now he needs to show it off again against Gen.G, where, as you said, their team fighting is really solid. Can he affect the game early enough before we get to the team fighting that D+ then can get a lead and have that advantage and allow Smash to carry? Also, I think it is still an advantage of Chovy over ShowMaker. Like, I think that at EWC, they cooked a little bit too much in the draft, and Chovy wasn't allowed to Chovy as much, I'd say. But I picked Gen.G on this one. It is a best of 3. We did just see them play a best of 3. It did go the way of Dplus Kia, but I think with a direct comparison and coming off that much more robust performance against T1 that we're used to seeing Gen.G put together, that doesn't worry me. So even though they beat T1, I don't know. I picked Gen.G here.
I think I'm gonna go D+. I like, the more I thought about it during this conversation, like, but before we started, I was like, I think I'm going Gen.G. I think there's probably the overall more solid team. D+ kind of got almost lucky in some senses with how that last series went. Like,
Yeah.
should have been the final, should have been a best of 5. But I don't know, man. Smash is super good at the moment. I worry about Canyon more than I worry about Ruler, and I don't always worry about Canyon, but you mentioned also Keen hasn't necessarily been as dominant.
Yep.
I don't think that necessarily means Shiu is going to run all over him, but it's an Ambessa meta, and she is super good at it. Ambessa is currently popping off in Kespa Cup. It is the most played champion there. So we've been seeing it a lot. It's basically played every game. It's not banned that often, but basically ends up in every draft. And I think it's part of why we're seeing double mages, because Ambessa's the AD carry, just flying through doing the AD damage. Yeah, I think Dplus still holding on to a little magic. You know, I still think they got a little magic, and I'm gonna predict them. I think they're gonna get it done.
You know what? I will say your predictions make more sense than mine, because you're like, yeah, we did just see Gen.G beat T1. And then, yeah, we did just see Dplus beat Gen.G. Yeah, I just did see Nongshim play well lately. You're making more sense than me. For me, I'm like, okay, those are good moments, and we know what they're capable of outside of Korea. In Korea, boop, 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 boop.
LCK is different though. It is different. Like it's true. Like Gen.G performs better domestically than they do abroad most of the time. That's just been true for all time, with the exception of Samsung back in the day, right? But like Samsung actually performed poorly domestically, then ran the gauntlet and then performed well internationally. So it's kind of ironic that that's shifted a little bit. But it goes back to what we were talking about earlier very briefly. Like every tournament's different. I like that we have all these different tournaments where like results can vary and people can be tired. Like we don't know how tired these players are going to play. Some of them playing in Kespa Cup, some of them not playing in Kespa Cup. Like Dplus not playing in Kespa Cup, they're resting. Gen.G didn't play in Kespa Cup in week 1, playing now. So who knows? It's volatile. I think you could make an argument for either side.
Yeah. Final days of matches. Man, this has been the longest spreads we've done, but it's the first one in a while. And we have all this. We have like too much information. It's great. We have EWC results, MSI results, now Kespa Cup results, Bro versus DNS. I don't think we're worried about this result. It's a 2-0 week for the Bros. Did I just curse us right now? If we did, you could blame this moment right here.
It's a 2-0 week for Bros. It's 2 weeks for 2-0 for Bros.
2 and Bro, baby.
I'm blocking in.
Locking it in. That was awful, dude.
Maybe I should have said, I don't know. No, there's just no way to make it work. You can't
brocking it in. Brock
it in.
I don't think you didn't need to put the L in there. KT and Hanwha, our final one. Remember, Hanwha KT undefeated until Hanwha ruined it, and then ruined their year. That was crazy. What a round 1.
Yeah, it's a Hanwha.
What is it?
It's a Hanwha bread. It's a Hanwha bread.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I was like, are you cooking an angle here? Like,
it's funny how Fenrir's playstyle is very different from Aiming's. If Fenrir is playing, I feel like he is the type of player who could win lane into Guma Delight, because he's kind of he's Diablo archetyped in terms of AD carry. He's not like, oh, I'm gonna sit back and scale. He's like, I am going to make these crazy outplay, flash E forward on Ezreal, hit every shot and destroy you. And Captain Jack, the support, trying to block for me on the way in. He's crazy. I tell you guys, you should watch his game yesterday that he played against Gen.G and against Ruler. Again, very close to actually taking over that entire game, and so many of the plays he made almost worked out, and they were like so incredibly mechanically impressive. I think he's cool. I don't think he's going to be starting. And even if he is, like, I think he alone, even if they win the lane against Guma, it doesn't matter. Like, Hanwha is the better team. I'm going to give Hanwha the pred here. But it could be fun. It could be fun. Whether it's Aiming or whether it's Fenrir. It could be fun.
I am excited to be back at LCK and to get things kicked off at the greatest league in the world, where I can say that comfortably yet again after our international dominance. We'll be there. We'll cover it all here on Let's Cover Korea afterwards. Make sure, if you haven't already, like and subscribe. If you want more, subscribe to LFN Premium. Put down Let's Cover Korea so that Wolf and I can feed our wives and his baby as we continue to dive into more LCK. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.